So it's my pleasure to have you all here with us for the Anterior segment subspecialty spotlight. We've got a fabulous group presenting today, which really represents well what's hot in Anterior segment. We've got Yori Mitchell from AcuFocus, Sam Gard, who will be representing LensGen. We've got Dee Stevenson talking about Atia Vision. Eric Barnabel will be discussing Avellino Labs. And then Babak Azarnarian will be talking about Tarsus. And what I'd like to do is give you sort of an overview here in the first 5 minutes about why is this all important? Why are we sitting here today? My name is George Waring from Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, and this is our anterior segment market overview. I like to think about things in simple terms and in buckets. And if you think about these top thinkers that I just introduced, they're covering a broad spectrum of the front of the eye. So when we think about the front of the eye, we're thinking about things like that seem very obvious: cataract, refractive opportunities, presbyopia, blepharitis, and dry eye. That's what we're going to be discussing. Simple buckets, but this really all falls into one big bucket of something that we've been hearing a lot of lately, which is refractive cataract, refractive lens, or refractive cornea, of course. It's all refractive, but it all works together. And we're realizing this more and more. Why? Because they all have an impact on our vision and on the vision performance. So here are the etiologies of why somebody might struggle with their vision, just a handful in the front of the eye, but they all lead to vision, all right? Your vision performance. Fluctuation, this is dry eye, right? Of course, we have to be on in our refractive targeting, but we have to separate that out from the opacity of the lens. These are all three different components of providing excellent vision. So why is this important? Well, we have an aging population. 991 million people worldwide will be over the age of 60. Actually, we're over the age of 60 last year. That's a lot of people to help. Fast forward 5 years, this number is going to grow to 1.14 billion people worldwide over the age of 60. So how many people over the age of 60, ladies and gentlemen, have dry eye? Lots. How about presbyopia? All of them. What about cataracts? Well, guess what? This is not soon far after to follow. Well, presbyopia happens a decade earlier, maybe even a decade and a half, maybe even 2 decades in some parts of the world, believe it or not. And in 2020, there'll be over 2.1 billion presbyopes worldwide, but thankfully for them and thankfully for us, everybody has 2 eyes. So that's 4.2 presbyopic eyes that we're going to have the opportunity to help very, very soon. Right now, 1/3 of the United States is presbyopic. And this is growing and doesn't show any sign of slowing down. But there's another interesting thing about this fraction. How many people in the audience have had a loved one or a relative fall and break something? Ever? So my mom just fell 2 days ago and broke her hip. Not fun, not easy. Would you believe it that falls in the United States kill more people annually than prostate cancer or breast cancer? Did you know that 1/3, ladies and gentlemen, of falls are related to bifocals? Staggering numbers that matter. You heard me say that this happens earlier in some parts of the world. 1/2 of Asia is presbyopic as we speak. So what are we doing about it? Turns out not much. Less than 4% of IOLs globally are presbyopia-correcting IOLs. Unbelievable when we think about the opportunity. In fact, it looks like 2/3 of these, if we stratify and remove retinal pathology and glaucoma, these cataract surgeries could qualify for presbyopia-correcting IOLs, 2/3 of them. But yet, we're only doing this in less than 4%. Let's just say we did it in half of that 2/3. Let's just say that we did a presbyopia-correcting IOL worldwide in 1/3 of these patients that would qualify. Do you know that the revenue would exceed $4 billion from that, which is more than the entire IOL portfolio put together right now? So again, this matters. So what are we looking for? Well, the polls are in. We're looking for the best distance visual acuity in presbyopia-correcting lenses, it turns out. And guess what? The numbers are increasing. And look at the portion of EDOF's extended depth of focus category that's grown the most, while accommodative have grown the least up until last year. But fast forward 5 years, that's going to change with all these new great accommodative lenses in the horizon, and EDOF continues to grow. So this is growing. The Academy has now recognized the dysfunctional lens syndrome as an entity this year, so we don't have to say pre-cataract anymore. We can help these people in earnest earlier in life and prevent cataracts in many cases, and we've got lots and lots of options to do this. So you can't see the numbers here, but basically LASIK is growing, finally. LASIK is on the rise. It had a dip in 2015, but it's back up, and that's great. But now we have to pay attention again to screening for our LASIK candidates. We're going to hear about some of this today. What's the most dreaded complication of LASIK? Weakening of the cornea in a way we can't control, or ectasia, or keratoconus. Well, is this genetic, or is this from eye rubbing, or is it both? We're not really sure. But we're going to learn a little bit about this, the opportunity to screen for this today. And then finally, dry eye is a huge opportunity. Over 30 million people with ocular surface disease, close to 20 million of those due to blepharitis in the US alone. Why does this matter? Because it affects your vision. As we published this year, we now have the objective evidence that shows that dry eye affects how you see. So we're getting very fancy with dry eye therapies. We're getting very fancy with refractive cataract surgery. But if you leave them with dry eye, we've not done anybody any favors, right? We don't want to leave a stone unturned. And this paradigm is going to change. Now we want to get to the source of the problem, and we want to treat this as opposed to waiting till an end-stage situation, right? And if you just think about how that works in our innovation pipeline, it usually starts end-stage, and it works the other way. We're going to flip that, and we're going to start incorporating health and wellness in a preventative aspect, including dry eye. So in summary, ladies and gentlemen, we have an aging population. Contemporary refractive surgery encompasses dry eye, corneal lens, and refractive cataract disciplines. The market is moving towards a holistic approach where we address all aspects of vision for optimal outcomes. And I just am really excited to hear from basically a perfect representation of what's hot in anterior segment for this common goal, which is a perfect ray of light on the retina. That's what we're all shooting for, okay?